morning, friends, and welcome back to my channel. Or if this is your first time here, then hi. My name is Carrington. Big, huge, special welcome to you. I hope you will consider hitting that subscribe button, clicking the little bell so you're notified of all my future uploads. And let's go ahead and get into today's exciting video. Okay, so today is kind of like a 2-for-1, right? Who doesn't love like a 2-for-1, right? Like you get 2 for the price of 1. So if you're like, Carrington, what the hell are you talking about? You're on like this tangent. Okay, I get it. All right, I am on this tangent. What I mean is that we are going to be trying out a lot of Pat Mcgrath. So I bought the whole entire holiday collection. So I have the large eyeshadow palette, I have the highlighter, I have the 2 smaller quads, I have both the blush and highlight trios. We have, I don't know if this is new, but it said it was new on the website, so I'm just gonna go with this is new. But like the Pat Mcgrath mini, this is like the Divine Rose 2 pouch. I have these little like heart-shaped glosses, and then on top of that I also have to try out like this Artistry wand, this Pat Mcgrath concealer, and the Pat Mcgrath Sublime Perfection foundation. I have all of this stuff to test out. So you're probably like, well, testing out Pat Mcgrath seems like a 1, so where's the 2-for-1? Well, the 2-for-1 is while I am trying out these products, I'm going to be telling you about 5 murders that happened on Thanksgiving. I did some serious research, looked all this up, and have finally compiled 5 murders that happened on Thanksgiving that we're going to talk about. So while I get to try out some new Pat Mcgrath, you guys also get to hear about 5 murders on Thanksgiving. Now, before we just like jump into this whole, we're going in deep. Does that make sense? I don't know. I feel like I just said something that didn't make sense. I'm just going to do complete and total swatches of everything just so we can see kind of what everything looks like before I start applying. So if you guys are excited to see what my first impressions are of Pat Mcgrath, because this stuff was expensive. Like I will purchase some expensive makeup, obviously, but I feel like this was like extremely expensive. Yeah, so I want to make sure that I am telling you guys whether or not this stuff is even worth your money. Because right now I'm just sitting here like, dang, that's expensive. So if you guys want to see what my thoughts are, then definitely keep on watching. All right, let's first just talk about like the stuff that I don't really need to swatch. The first is this foundation. So it comes in like this really cute, nice box, and then you have this foundation. So the packaging is like very elegant, I think, as you can tell. It comes with, oh geez, I can't read. 1.18 fluid ounces. So you get more than like a typical foundation. A typical foundation is just 1 fluid ounce. You have like a very nice packaging, but it kind of looks, and I literally just popped this, but it looked kind of like, do you hear that? Like it feels very, or sounds very liquidy. Like, is that how it's supposed to go? I don't know. But this is very, very, very weighted. It looks stunning. It looks absolutely gorgeous. I do want to squeeze out just a little bit though, just to see what the formula is like. Oh, okay. So yes, it is definitely very liquidy, and it has like a light, I don't know, fruity-ish kind of scent, and it doesn't really seem like it's super like full coverage. So I'm wondering if this is like just like a skin tint kind of thing. I don't know. Okay, so the next up you have the concealer. So I got this in the lightest shade. This again, very elegant, very weighted. It's definitely beautiful. Let's just see. Okay. that already looks pretty pigmented. So here this is, and I'm just going to go ahead. So this is definitely much more thick and provides a little bit more coverage than the foundation does. So I feel like that could be like a really good pair. If you're somebody that likes like a very like tinted kind of a look, but would like something where you can like cover up some patches. So that's interesting. Then we have this, oh gosh, what's this called? Pat McGrath Intensifies Artistry Wand. So this, you click up from the bottom. Okay, so like, I feel like you don't want to like come out with like a lot. And then you just like put it on. You can't really see any, like you can't see anything, but it feels wet. Like it feels like I'm licking my hand. That's what it reminds me of. I'm, you know, tapping it. Doesn't feel sticky. It feels very nice. I will give it that. It feels nice. So I am excited to see how well this works for like the eye. I haven't seen anybody use this. I just purchased it with like the Utopian 8 or 9 palette. The Utopian palette that she had. And I was going to use that, but my daughter picked it for this month's Stop My Stash. And so I didn't get to use that. So we're definitely going to use that today. I'm kind of excited to see how those things go. Then we have these like little heart shaped glosses. They're, I would say, if you have like mobility issues and a tough time grasping things, I don't think you're going to like these because they just are so very tiny that like trying to like get a hold of them and turn them is not the easiest. Does this even say what shade this is, or like, okay, this is Flesh 6. It kind of has like a very like soft vanilla kind of a scent, and this is in the shade the next one I'm going to swatch is in the shade Flesh Fantasy. Wow, I can't talk at all today. All right, so here are the two glosses side by side. So we definitely have one that's definitely more of like a very like rose terracotta kind of a shade. And then you have this one here, which is like a very like nudie pink, I would say. So then we have the Divine Rose. So this is like the little lip pencil. Oh wow, that swatch is terrible. I am left-handed, not right-handed, and I'm trying to swatch. I'm trying to swatch with my other hand. Okay, so here is like the Divine Rose gloss. This feels a little bit more heavy and sticky than the other glosses, but a beautiful shade nonetheless. And again, it still has that very light vanilla kind of a scent. And then last is this little tiny lipstick. Yikes, that's all you get. Okay, but let's go ahead and swatch that. So here are all of these together. So that's all of the lip products that I have gotten. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to the trios and the cheek products. So here's what the trio packaging looks like. It's beautiful, gives you the shade names on the back. This whole trio is considered the Galactic Sun trio. When you open it up, this is definitely meant for more kind of like lighter tones. So we're gonna go ahead and swatch the blushes and the highlighter. Now, these, I think this trio might be meant more for like deeper or lighter skin tones. So I don't know necessarily to be able to use this highlighter, but let's go ahead and try out the other trio. So the other trio looks exactly the same. This one is in Amber Allure, and this one, again, 2 blushes and a highlight. For blushes, yeah, oh yeah, no, that highlighter is way too dark. We have Lovestruck, Paradise Venus, Venus Nectar, and I forgot to tell you what the other ones were called. This is Divine Rose, Desert Orchid, and Golden Nectar. So these are definitely for, I feel like, deeper skin tones than me, the highlighters are. But I do want to say that these blushes, these trios, these are already existing shades that she had just come out with in her new, when she launched her blushes. So if you are thinking like, do I really need to purchase this? I think one thing to really consider is if you already have all the blushes, why would you buy these to have two of the same blushes and a highlighter that may or may not work for your skin tone? Because like these definitely aren't going to work for my skin tone. So definitely something to think about. But then we have the highlighter. This is the highlighter in, does it say? Oh boy. Lunar Nude. It comes like this very beautiful like lavender. So far we've seen the packaging being a little bit more pinkish. So now we definitely have something that's a little bit more lavender. It's definitely very beautiful again. And then I'm going to try to open up this box. Ooh. So again, here is like the packaging. It is very beautiful, but I can definitely tell where you're going to get your fingerprints on this. And then one thing I love is like the embossing. Like that is such a good embossing. It's beautiful. So now I'm going to take it. Yeah, again, I just don't know that that's going to necessarily, it could work. It could work for my skin tone. So we'll definitely play around with some of these items for sure. So now let's go ahead and let's get into swatching the eyeshadow palettes. Okay, so then we have two quads. I would say these quads were like $58 for 4 shades. So that's pretty much up there, especially in comparison to this large palette right here, which was $78. And I think it comes with like 18 shades. So, you know, definitely something to consider. But the first one comes in like this very beautiful red packaging. This one is called, does it say? Oh, yep. Deep Space Divinity is what this one is called. Again, these feel very nice and weighted. So there is some like luxury to it. And then on the inside, you really only get one matte and the rest are shimmers. But here are all the shades. They are definitely like very nice and buttery, including the shimmers. They are extraordinarily stunning. So the next one comes in kind of like this pinkish packaging. We have seen this pink packaging before. I mean, it's a little bit lighter than like the blush trio ones, but definitely still a cute pink. This is the Deep Space Divinity quad. Again, it comes with one matte and the rest are some shimmer shades. There are, I feel like, what is going on? Like, why is it not like working out in my favor? I don't know. Okay. So here are like these shades. So this one right here, you can't really tell on camera, but it's a duochrome. It's like a brown to blue shift. And again, the mattes were soft and the shimmers were soft as well. So the last is the Big Daddy palette. And this comes in like a very nice, beautiful red sort of packaging. This is called the Celestial Odyssey. And it has 3, 6, 9, 12. Yep, it does. It has 18 shades. Not a whole lot of mattes, but I'm going to go ahead and get started on some swatches for you. First and foremost, let me just say, all of these shades are absolutely stunning. I'm trying to see if they have shade names. They do. Okay. So we have Saturn Sunset, Rose Venus, Gold Galaxy, Noir Moon, Bronze Nova, Nocturne, Galactic Glow, Sunrose Amber, Lotus Luxe, Lunar Haze, Electric, Heavenly Body. We have Bronze Eclipse, Solar Flare, Nirvana, Corrupt Copper, Palladium, and Citrine Envy. So these are all like beautiful, beautiful, beautiful shades. All right, so now that we have swatched everything, I'm gonna go ahead and get started with a look so we can get started talking about murders that happened on Thanksgiving. On Thanksgiving 1991, O'Mama Nelson was 23, who killed her husband, Bill Nelson, who was 56 at the time, with a pair of scissors. Bill then fell to the ground and began to flail about, where she then took an iron and hit him over the head until it broke. She then butchered him on the kitchen floor and boiled his hands in oils to remove fingerprints, skinned his torso and lower body, and stuck his head in the freezer to break out his teeth later. She then castrated him. She then went over to her ex-boyfriend's house and asked him to help her discard the body. On December 1st, police get a tip about body parts being in Bill Nelson's car, which was proven to be that of Bill himself. Officers then went to report this to his wife, but once she opens the door, they see more body parts wrapped up in newspaper and stuck in the fridge, where they then promptly arrested her. She then promptly claimed self-defense, stating that her husband subjected her to physical, emotional, and sexual abuse. She states that he would pimp her out to other men in exchange for rent, cash, cars, etc. She one time adopted a kitten, who he then pulled from her lap and threw out the car window. She states that he was into BDSM and would frequently tie her up and rape her. She also claimed that on the morning of Thanksgiving, he had raped her and she feared for her life. A psychiatrist was then ordered to interview her, and he stated that he had never seen someone so bizarre and psychotic. She was also subjected to female mutilation as a child and was subjected to sexual humiliations in order to survive. The psychiatrist believes that on top of her childhood trauma and the trauma caused by her husband, Bill, she was in a psychotic state. However, the state brought forth evidence that it was Bill that had bruises around his feet and ankles, which led them to believe that he had, in fact, been the one that was tied up against his well. Omema also, however, has a history of tying up 2 lovers before Bill and held them at gunpoint while she robbed them. 6 days of jury deliberation came back and found her guilty of second-degree murder and was sentenced to life in prison. In 2011, she was eligible for parole. However, the parole board was not impressed, and she is set to serve out the remainder of her sentence. Paul Mirage was an honor student and varsity athlete at a Miami preschool before going to the University of Miami. In high school, Paul always talked about how much he loved his family and even dedicated his senior page to all 32 members of his family. He played many sports, led French Honor Society. He was described by others as driven, mature, handsome, fit, personable, and well-liked. He then went on to the University of Missouri, and during this time he had a mental break where he suffered from OCD and chronic depression, but it never got better. He became very troubled where he suffered insomnia, obesity, receding hairline, and struggling to make decisions. He shot himself once trying to commit suicide and threatened to kill one of his sisters, who drew a restraining order, but dropped it shortly. Thanksgiving 2009, Paul was having Thanksgiving with his family at 16, where they were talking and making jokes and even participating in sing-along songs. Family states that everything seemed normal. There were no arguments, warnings, or red flags. They state that he sat quietly, did not appear to eat anything, and after that, he went outside, got a gun, re-entered, and began to open fire. Although there were no red flags at this time, however, Paul rarely came around, especially for family gatherings, and many family members had not seen him in over a decade. After he had shot his gun, he had killed a cousin-in-law, 2 sisters, one of which was pregnant, 79-year-old aunt, and his 6-year-old cousin. He then tried to shoot his uncle, but it did not fire twice. Paul then stated, "I've waited 20 years to do this." Followed by him abruptly leaving the scene, he had the whole thing pre-planned because he wanted to kill his sisters in order to punish his parents. He bought 4 guns, packed clothes for when he went on the run, and withdrew $12,000 in cash. Jupiter police were on the lookout, especially near bodies of water, and alerted Michigan police because he had a doctor up there that he had recently seen. He, however, fled to Florida Keys, where he was going to commit suicide, however did not go through with the plan. He even switched the license plate off his car and kept it covered in the motel parking lot where he stayed. It took 5 weeks on a manhunt to finally find and arrest him on January 2nd, 2010, after the manager was watching the news and saw where someone he was renting out a room to matched the description of the wanted man. Ken Beaver states that mental illness often comes out in college where pre-existing conditions are triggered by stress and drastic life changes. This can feed into violence, although it is often gradual. But it can get to the point where he may have thought about killing and the OCD would make it worse, giving him an excuse to come back to the idea of killing others over and over again. Soon the idea would be more concrete and a plan would develop until he finally acted. The prosecution sought to seek the death penalty, and insanity was not admissible, and he was considered sane to stand trial. He then pled guilty to 7 life sentences and will serve life without parole in order to avoid the death penalty. Byron David Smith. Byron Smith was a retired security engineering officer with the U.S. State Department who resided in Little Falls, Minnesota. Byron was experiencing a lot of burglaries in his home, where among the stolen items included thousands of dollars in cash, a watch from his father, Army medals and ribbons, firearms, and jewelry. He even installed an alarm system with video footage. He began to wear a gun in a holster around his home. However, he had had enough. So on Thanksgiving 2012, he moved his truck from the driveway to make it seem like he was not at home. He then went down to his basement with his Thanksgiving meal, a book, a tape recorder, and 2 guns. He then laid a tarp at the foot of the stairs. An hour later, 2 teens, Haley Kiefer, 18, and her cousin Nicholas Brady, 17, both of whom were unarmed, broke into his home. They were also responsible for the burglary of a retired schoolteacher earlier in the day. He was convicted and sentenced to life in prison. Brady came to the top of the basement stairs first, where Smith shot him twice, and he fell down the stairs and was seen to still be alive. He was shot fatally in the face. He then moved the body to the workshop to prevent him from bleeding on the carpet. Minutes later, Kiefer was at the top of the stairs looking for her cousin, and he shot her at the top of the stairs twice. You can hear her yelling on the tape recorder, "Oh my God!" in which Smith replied, "You're dying, bitch." She then fell down the stairs wounded, but Smith's rifle jammed, so he grabbed his revolver. She then began to laugh. He then shot her multiple times in the chest. She was then moved where her cousin was, and that is when Smith noticed that she was still alive. So he put the gun up to her chin and delivered the fatal shot. He can then be heard saying that he did his civic duty and that he did not see them as human, but vermin. Instead of calling the cops, he then went to a neighbor to have them call the police, stating that he did not want to bother them on Thanksgiving. Smith was then arrested and was initially charged with second-degree murder for each killing, but it was then in April 2013 that it was changed to first-degree murder for both. He told the cops that he was afraid for his life as he thought the intruders were the same ones who stole his firearms and had come back armed. So he decided it was either shoot or be shot. When questioned about why he continued to shoot, he states that he was afraid that they would get back up and pull out their weapons. The defense tried to argue the Minnesota Castle Law, which states that if you are in danger in your home, that you can shoot someone. However, there were 7 minutes between the sound of the break-in and the first one appearing at the top of the stairs that he could have called the police, but he did not. Also, if he had shot them once and crippled them, he likely would have gotten off scot-free. But since he continued to shoot them an extensive amount of time without calling the cops, especially after they had fallen down the stairs, unable to move, it was no longer self-defense. On April 29, 2014, he was found guilty of first-degree murder in each of the deaths and sentenced to life without parole. Joel Guy Sr. On Thanksgiving 2016, Joel Michael Guy Jr. traveled from Baton Rouge, Louisiana to Knoxville, Tennessee, where he had Thanksgiving dinner with his 3 sisters and both of his parents, including that of Joel Guy Sr. At the end of the night, the 3 sisters returned to their home, and at some point between the night and Monday afternoon, Joel Jr. stabbed and dismembered his parents. He decapitated Lisa's head and placed in a boiling pot. His father was stabbed 42 times, as his mother was stabbed 31. He then tried to dissolve their bodies in a mix of drain cleaner, sewer cleaner, hydrogen peroxide, and bleach. Guy was still in college and was dependent on his parents for financial support, where during the holidays, his parents were telling him that they were going to scale back the amount of support they were providing. The crime scene was discovered when a coworker of Lisa called 911 after she no-called and no-showed at work. Guy, prior to this, had no history of mental illness and no criminal record, not even a traffic ticket. However, it was soon discovered that there was a $500,000 life insurance policy on Guy Sr., who it would have went to Lisa, and if she died, it would have went to Guy Jr. He faced an automatic life sentence with the possibility of parole after 51 years. Guy Jr. asked that if he is found guilty, that he be given the death penalty. However, the state did not pursue this, and instead, he has been charged with life in prison. Patrick Frazee. On Thanksgiving 2018, Kelsey was last seen alive with her fiancé, Patrick Frazee, at a gas station, but that would be the last time she would be seen alive. She was not reported missing until December 2nd by her mother after she had not called or texted her back. Frazee immediately became a person of interest, as well as his mistress, Crystal Kinney. Crystal Kinney was a former nurse and had been seeing Frazee for some time. She then agreed to tell the police everything in an exchange for a plea deal. She told the investigators that on Thanksgiving Day 2018, he beat her to death with a baseball bat at her home while their 1-year-old daughter was playing in the next room. Her last words were begging him to please stop. He then put her remains in a plastic tote, loaded it in his truck, drove to his ranch, and had Thanksgiving with his family. He then contacted Crystal at her home in Idaho, telling her that she had to come help him. She went to the home and began to scrub down the condo. However, she left some bloodstains in the hopes that the police would search and find it. She then met with Frazee and they went to pick up some gasoline. They then took the tote that had her body inside, lit it on fire. He then told her to take her phone and go to Idaho so it looked like she left. She then burned the phone and police confirmed her last phone pinged in Gooding, Idaho. Crystal also confessed that this is not the only time that he mentioned to her about wanting to kill Kelsey. She states that 2 months prior he tried to get Crystal to kill her multiple times. In a trial, a friend of Frazee's testified, stating that they were hanging out in April 2018 when he answered that he finally figured out a way to kill Kelsey. The one thing that incriminated him was he wrote on toilet paper and paper towels asking his inmate to dispose of them in the toilet after reading them. In these notes, he stated that all the witnesses needed to disappear until the end of the trial. On November 19th, 2021, he was convicted of first-degree murder, felony murder, 3 counts of solicitation to commit murder. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, plus an additional 156 years. As for Crystal, she pleaded guilty to tampering with evidence, and for her plea was given a reduced 3-year sentence. However, the appeals ended up overturning that statement, and she was let out, where she is now currently on parole. Alright, and we are back with the final look. What do you guys think? I am loving this. I think it came out like pink and perfect and beautiful, so I'm absolutely loving this look. So now let's go ahead and let's kind of like dive on into my final thoughts. Okay, so first things first is this palette right here. Now, I used a couple of the mattes in here and they were pigmented. You do not need to coat your brush. Literally just dabble into it and you will get some serious like payoff with the color, the pigmentation. I think it was beautiful. I think the mattes in here are really, really nice. In terms of the shimmers, some of the shimmers are a lot nicer than the other ones. The other ones are kind of crumbly and they do fall on the face. So I didn't really have any issues with that with this shade that I went into. But when I went into this shade right here, it definitely was very like crumbly. But I think that like overall it turned out really good. I think the shimmers in here are nice. This is a $78 palette and you only do get 18 shades. However, in comparison, you only get 4 shades in here and this is like $58. So for $20 more, you get 14 additional shades in the bigger palette. I feel like the bigger palette maybe had a little bit more of some special shades than these quads. The quads, I think the only one that might have a special shade is this one right here. And it's like a brown, purpley blue kind of a shift. Whereas the rest of them in here are just like some basic shimmers. There's nothing special about that. And then in this one as well, there's not really anything that's super special about this quad. So I would say really the palette that I think would be the best to pick up would be this one. You do get more shades for your money, as well as I feel like there's a lot more special shades in here. There's a lot more like colorful options that you get to choose from, like this green right down here is beautiful. This like black, it's like black but it has like these beautiful like sparkles in it, like silver, blue, purple kind of sparkles in there. I think that is beautiful. You have like this like purple silver. I mean, I think there's just like a lot of like really special shades in here. I like the size. I like that you do get a pretty significantly large sized mirror in here. I think that overall, like, I think this is going to be the best palette for your money. Not saying that the other quads were bad, because I did use the mattes and they were definitely like bam in your face pigmented, which is always nice. But I just feel like if I was going to direct you towards a palette, you only get 1 matte and the others and 3 shimmers, and they're not even special shimmers. They're very basic. They're like gold champagnes kind of shades, and I feel like you can find those in a lot of others. I feel like these had some really special shades in them. So I would definitely say if you are wanting one of these palettes for your collection, go with this one. This one is a lot more special. In terms of this Artistry, Intensifies Artistry wand, I don't feel like it did anything, you know, super impactful or amazing to my shimmers. You know, maybe I just don't know how to apply it. I may need to go watch a couple of reviews to best see how to apply these, just because I mean, I tried to use them with both shimmers and it just didn't really feel like it did anything overly super special. I think that you could like wet your brush or wet your finger or, you know, really anything else to get the effect that this is going to do without having to spend the money for this. So, you know, for right now, I'm going to say this probably is not going to be worth your money. But I'm definitely going to try to use this a little bit more to kind of give you guys more of a like final thought on this. That's because like right now I'm really not impressed with this. Like I don't see the wow factor in this at all. This foundation is very, 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 very runny. You know, so much so that I'm just kind of like, oh, I don't know. I will say it does even out the skin tone really nicely. But if you're looking for something that's really going to be able to cover up your imperfections, your dark spots, acne, this is not going to be it. I also think this is really nice if you have like dry skin such as myself, because it is nice, it's runny, it does kind of give like a dewy finish. But I feel like with how runny this is, I don't think this is going to be a good option if you have oily skin, because this already, like, you hear that? This already feels and sounds oily. So if you're already producing tons of oil, this is not going to be it for you. I feel like even if you powder, I don't think this is going to be it for you. Next up on the opposite end, however, is this concealer. So this concealer is definitely like a very thick, very heavy. I put on quite a bit under my under eyes, and I even didn't put on as much as I normally do. And I feel like that was more than enough. I really feel like a little bit of this goes a long way. I think this does a fantastic job covering up, you know, some blemishes. Like granted, you know, you can still kind of see it, but it's also like the size of like a gobstopper. Okay, so the fact that like it's not as noticeable with this, I think this does an incredible job for things like that. I think it does an incredible job for covering up like your dark spots. Like I have dark circles, and like I can't even notice them anymore. But I definitely do have some dark circles. So like I think it does a great job like covering those things up, but I don't think you need a lot. And I also would not recommend letting it sit for such a long period of time. I feel like we hear that a lot about like you can leave things for a while to like set. I don't think you need to do this with this concealer. You really just, you can put it on and just start blending, and I feel like it gives you the amount of coverage that most concealers get when you do let it set. So just something to like think about there. Okay, on to the cheek products. You know, these blushes are ones that I feel like I gravitate more towards. Just because, especially like the shade right here that I went into the first time, I definitely had to like dunk my brush in a couple of times. And even then it wasn't like bam, in your face pigmented. Whoa, almost died, almost killed one. But then when I went into this shade over here, I was able to get, you know, I only had to dunk in once and able to get pigmentation for both sides of my cheeks. So I think these are kind of, you know, depending on what you're looking for, you can get some of the darker blush shades where you don't have to go in with as much pigmentation, where you don't have to go in as many times to get the same pigmentation as some of the lighter ones. But for me personally, I do kind of like being able to build up a blush, because sometimes more than not, I can go a little bit insane with my blush. Like it just, like here we are, things are going great. You know, we got some blush on the brush and then bam, too much blush. And so I did really feel like I had that issue with these. And so I really do like that. The only downside to this is if it was me and I had already owned all of these blushes, I think I only own one of her blushes. And I'm not going to lie, I don't think any of these are it. Maybe I have Divine Rose. Maybe. But if I already owned, for me personally, if I had already owned all of the blushes that she came out with, this wouldn't be a very good deal for me because these are kind of expensive as well. These are like $50 or $58 each. They're like, yeah, so they're like $50 or $58 each. And then the only thing I'd be able to use, or that would be new to me, would be the highlighters. And as you could tell during the swatches, the highlighters were definitely way, way, way too dark for me. Way too dark. So if you were like my skin tone, maybe even a little bit deeper than me. So if you're like fair light, I feel like these highlighters might be a little bit too dark. So if you already have all 4 of the blushes and you're my skin tone and maybe like a fair light, I think this is probably not going to be something that you really need to pick up. But if you don't have any of them, and you might be like a deeper skin tone, I think like, you know, these like little trios are great. I really like the compactness of them. I like the variety of the shades. I think those are just like some really great trios. For me, the star of the show has got to be this Lunar Nude. Is that what it's called? Yeah, Lunar Nude highlighter. I mean, look at that. That is stunning. And the imprint is beautiful. Like I love this. This is definitely like a baked gel kind of a, and look at that. It's so beautiful. I feel like I want to use this all the time. I mean, it's stunning. I like, look at that. That is beautiful. You can't tell me that this is just not gorgeous. That's probably like the star of the show for me. Another thing that I feel like is going to be like definitely like the star of the show for me is this lip liner. Okay, I like scrubbed off everything else. I literally had to sit here and keep scrubbing, and even then I could not get it all off. This definitely feels like a budge-proof, foolproof kind of a lip liner. So if you are one of those that you need a lip liner that is going to last and it's going to stay, so I will definitely let you know like a favorites and fails for sure. But like this is still on my hand. Like it's not going anywhere. I do really like the lipstick. I do wish, well, more came in it than that. Like, well, I mean, I say that, but I probably like, you know, I have so many lipsticks. I've never actually used up a lipstick or a lip gloss. So I don't really know like how well that would, you know, go. But I think it's a really beautiful color. It really glided on nicely. I didn't have any like pulling issues. It was beautiful. This gloss, I do like this gloss. I like, first of all, I do like, okay, I like half and half. I like how cute this is. I like how it looks like a little heart. I love how cute this is. I love how comfortable it is. It's not sticky. Yep, definitely just glides right on the lips and make your lips feel nice and hydrated. The one thing I don't like is look how tiny this is to try to get it to open. If you have any gripping problems, this is probably going to be like super hard for you to open and get out. But I just love how like easy this is to just like glide on the lips. And look, they look so like plump and beautiful. Great kind of like a scent to it. It's not like so overpowering, but it's definitely nice. So I do like those. I just wish like it wasn't so hard. So if you have some like gripping issues, you may not be able to get that open. But that is all that I tried from Pat McGrath today. That feels like a lot. I feel like that was a lot. It's probably a lot of money. Probably a lot more money than it was a lot more stuff. We're going to be honest. But honestly, I was not really like super disappointed at anything. There were some things where I was like, oh, you know, I kind of wanted a little bit more from it, like that Artistry wand. But other than that, like, I really, really enjoyed everything I tried. Let me know what you guys think down below. Are you guys planning on picking up anything from Pat McGrath? I know she's doing a sale. So are you guys planning on picking anything up during this sale? Let me know if you guys have picked up anything. Let me know all your thoughts, comments, opinions down below. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed. This lets me know that you enjoyed this type of content. This lets YouTube know you enjoy this type of content. All that other good stuff. And that is it for today's video. Don't forget to comment, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, click the little bell if you have not already. And I will see you guys in tomorrow's video. Bye.